on a JetBlue Mint flight to Las Vegas. A select group of analysts, pundits, and poker professionals fought and toiled and burned the midnight oil to deliver the best segment in all of sports media. It's an honor and a privilege to introduce this special Las Vegas version of Nick's Tears. Excited for that.
Indeed. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, as always, Kevin Wildes, and thank you for the audience for bearing, Tears back in its regularly scheduled programming. Last week, we had the pleasure of being at Yankee Stadium, but it meant we couldn't do Tears Wednesdays at 4 o'clock. We are now back, even though I am not in studio, and also a new elimination. And, Brew, this one breaks my heart. The Jacksonville Jaguars have been...
Wow. Tough one.
Another check mark for objectivity, Nick. Good job.
Again, they were facing elimination. They lost the game, and a special added trauma for the chairman emeritus of the committee that they were eliminated on a Trevor Lawrence red zone 2-minute drill interception. But such is life. 8 teams eliminated. Who's facing elimination this week? Well, 2 teams that I thought we all agreed should be facing elimination, but it turns out one of them's about to rip off 8 straight wins. Who knew? The Jets, if they lose to Arizona, they're out. The Dolphins, if they lose to the Rams, they're out. Next level. Who's in charge? With the Bears. Is Eberflus in charge? I don't know, man. You got all your players doing media being like, have they quit on the team? I don't know. He's like, I want to say no. You got guys walking off the field. It's not looking great. In Indy, who's in charge? The guy who drafted the rawest prospect in the last decade in the NFL, number 4, or the guy who benched him for 39-year-old Joe Flacco? And in Dallas, we kind of know Jerry's the one in charge, but is he going to exert that influence at all? Like maybe, I don't know, Micah, less lists on your podcast that exclude or insult Dak Prescott. Next, buried at 405. So all these teams, except for Tampa, play on the West Coast or Mountain Time Zone, and because of that, they very often are playing opposite the America's Game of the Week or the huge game on CBS at 425. So I don't know how much America has seen these teams, but Seattle has the league's leading passer in Geno Smith. Denver has a legitimately excellent defense, and Arizona, and Bo Nix playing pretty well lately, actually, and Arizona getting better defensively, fun to watch offensively. Tampa, on the other hand, they haven't been buried at 405. They just have had an odd amount of nationally televised games against teams better than them. Mm-hmm. So my point is, I think all 4 of these teams are a little bit better than the general public believes because they either haven't watched them or only watched them in tough spots. Sneaky impressive. I like both of these teams. And imagine, by the way, sidebar, how impressive your team must be if you easily dispatched of both of them earlier in the year, but that's neither here nor there. I really like what Atlanta's looked like since Kirk Cousins got at least semi-mobile, and I really like what the Chargers have looked like since Jim Harbaugh has allowed Justin Herbert to exhibit some of his Justin Herbertness throwing the ball down the field. This one's going to be controversial. Can win the Super Bowl. That's the next tier. Either of these teams can win the Super Bowl. A couple years ago, we saw these teams play each other in the Super Bowl. When healthy, they have 2 of the 5 best offenses in football. The Rams have a great coach to go along with it. The Bengals have maybe the best pair of receivers to go along with it. Now listen, either of these teams could miss the playoffs outright, but either of them, if they get in, can win the Super Bowl. Which is what's so odd, because they're right beneath in the tiers teams that can't win the Super Bowl. None of these teams are going to miss the playoffs, but none of them can win the Super Bowl. They're all going to be in the playoffs, have great seasons, and then lose before you get to the Super Bowl. I have a ton of respect for what all 3 of these teams have done. The Steelers, quarterback change seems to be better because of it. Washington starting a rookie. And by the way, even though I didn't pick it, do I get if I'm wrong about Washington and they do make the Super Bowl, do I get any kind of reverse take credit? I predicted a rookie to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC.
No,
some people are saying
100%.
And the Vikings, everybody thought, I don't know, some people are saying, there's rumblings like Cooper Rush replacing Dak Prescott. There were rumblings. And the Vikings, they lost their quarterback in the preseason. The guy they drafted, Sam Darnold's making it happen, but they can't win the Super Bowl. Depends on the day. both of these teams, kind of the two best teams in the NFC the last couple years, this season, if you snapshotted their worst game, or maybe even their worst 2 games, you'd be like, oh, they are nothing close to the team they had been the previous 2 years. Flip side, if you snapshotted their 2 best performances, you'd say they're the exact team they've been the last few years. Philly's in good playoff shape. San Francisco's in shakier playoff shape, but they have more reinforcements coming. Next, crown too early? Question mark? Maybe. 2 young quarterbacks, second year full-time as a starter. The people on this show picked either or both of them to make the Super Bowl. Maybe a little premature. With that said, they have both dealt with injuries and they have both found their way to 6-3. I have been oddly impressed by them as a team, even if I've been a little maybe underwhelmed by some of the features that I thought were going to be the best for them. For the Texans, D'Amico's defense, and for the Packers, Jordan Love's ability to control the turnovers. Next, awesome with a fatal flaw. So we know what the Ravens' fatal flaw is. I'm not even going to talk about Lamar's playoff performances. It's just that their defense appears to, no matter how much time in the film room they spend watching old Ravens defenses that used to be good to get their daily boost of culture, their defense doesn't have it together, and you feel like that could end them. And we know what the Bills' fatal flaw is. They taunted the football gods this week with the never a doubt tweet, and then they had their shaky kicker hit a kick, and we know that's going to come back to bite them. But then when they are rolling, they are awesome. Firmly, or pardon me, fully bought in. I think Dan Campbell should be the runaway favorite right now for Coach of the Year. Everything about the culture he has brought to Detroit, his team, his quarterback, both sides of the ball have 100% fully bought in, and they right now look like clearly the best team in the NFC. And then, atop the tiers, a team that is simultaneously not scary, might go undefeated. It's a very odd circumstance we find with the 2-time defending Super Bowl champs. We all agree that if they played that fictional team from the program 30 years ago, that team would kick their ass in a knife fight. They'd bring sticks to it. But they also never lose football games. That, Brew, or Greg, pardon me, is the Week 10 tiers live from Las Vegas.
Yeah, I can fight back on a couple of these lines, especially that Steelers, Vikings, and I think Commanders. It's quite disrespectful given their record right now. Wow. Not saying I don't agree with you totally, but I could argue that. Your infatuation with the 49ers, I'm going to digress right there. But I do like the title that you gave the team that I'm going to talk about in the Houston Texans, Crown Too Early, because I did pick this team to win the Super Bowl, and I'm not jumping off of that. I'm not jumping off of that. I still believe that they have an opportunity. But boy, C.J. Stroud was going to be my MVP. That's no longer even an option because of the way that he's played. And it's not just about C.J. Stroud, but I do want to take a look into C.J. Stroud as it pertains to who he is this year versus who he was last year, because he caught a lot of teams by surprise. He came on the scene, and he was electric. He was exciting. He gave that city life. But this year, it has not been the same when you look at the numbers of C.J. Stroud. And it's, again, I'm not going to just say it's all about C.J. Stroud, because he's had injuries up on his offensive line that play into the reasons why he's been bad. But those numbers, they're not great. They're not great when you have expectations to get to the Super Bowl, and that's what you were built to do this preseason with all the acquisitions. You got injuries galore right now at the receiver position and along your team. Like, I don't know. I would knock this team down a couple notches to where the Steelers, the Washington Commanders, and the Vikings are right now. I think they're a little too high.
So you're taking the team that you picked to go to the Super Bowl.
For right now, it's
moving them down to the can't win the Super Bowl.
I'm not because of the title.
You like the title of that tier.
Wildes is
not
so
because of the title of
Greg did. Greg, let me give. Hold on.
Bail on his
because
pick.
I got to give Greg
I think
credit.
he's bailing, Nick.
He's bail on his pick.
No, he's not.
Halfway through the season, it sounds like he's bailing.
Greg has gotten very, very good with something that, if I may say so myself, I think I'm the single best in the world at, which is having like a throwaway line in the preface of your statement that actually then makes sure you don't contradict anything. And so if someone tries to call you on it, you can be like, no, I said. Greg said, and it didn't really make sense. He was like, I don't love the name of that tier with the Steelers and Washington and whoever else. And then he launched into his thing because he knew he was going to drop Houston down there, and he wants to say they can still win the Super Bowl. Greg, I doff my proverbial cap to you, sir. That was a great job.
Bailing on your pick. From where we sit, that's called bailing on your pick.
I'm not bailing.
I think you dropped them to like the 14th best team in the league.
Yeah, it means
right now, I am honest. I am real. Right now,
Greg?
they are not that great.
You can be honest about every other
since I'm
team,
not
but if you got your teams, you got to defend your teams. Then it's not your team.
Listen,
They're still my team.
Greg, I think you're doing great. And I think since I'm not there, just kind of in absentia, you today, Mr. Consistency.
Thank you.
Studio.
Thank you, Nick.
I see no inconsistency in your take whatsoever. I love it.
Means a lot.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Well, look, the Washington, and what Nick does, I've noticed this over the last month or so. Nick often saves himself with the titles.
Yeah.
You know, because the real tiers are just the tiers.
Exactly.
How they're ranked. It's not the name. All right? What he does, though, is save himself, because I look at that bottom line facing elimination and I say, okay, that's fair. I get that.
Yeah.
But, and the Cowboys shouldn't be facing elimination, but they should be on that bottom tier with the Jets and the Dolphins. The Cowboys are not better than the Jets and the Dolphins, especially with Greg's favorite quarterback, Cooper Rush, at the helm.
Not my favorite.
Okay? They're not. They basically have the same record. The Jets are 3-6. The Cowboys 3-5. The Jets are a week removed from beating the Houston Texans. Greg's Super Bowl pick, I think he might have just jumped off the bandwagon.
No.
But my point is, Nick, you do this a lot. Who's got the better quarterback? The Jets. Who's got the better receivers? Wait, Aaron Rodgers isn't better than Cooper Rush?
Oh, Cooper Rush.
Oh, compared to Cooper Rush. Fine.
Okay,
Yeah. I thought we were saying compared to Dak.
The better receivers, the Jets.
No, the Cowboys.
How about the
CeeDee Lamb's better than anybody
Jonathan
the Jets
Mingo's
have?
that good? Well, yeah, but you got Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson on the Jets.
The Jets have better running
That combination
backs.
is better than CeeDee Lamb by himself. The Jets have better running backs. The Jets have a better defense. I know Micah's coming back, but Micah was there for the 44-19 loss to the Saints. Micah was there when they went down 28-6 to Baltimore. So I'm just saying, you saved yourself with the title, because I don't believe the Cowboys should be facing elimination, but they should drop a tier because they're no better than the Jets and the Dolphins.
Wildes, help me out here. Because my earpiece went out for a moment.
Yeah.
Did Bruce say at the end there that he doesn't believe the Cowboys are facing elimination, but he wants them on the facing elimination tier? Because that seems silly.
Greg, you can't change the rules.
He saves himself with the titles. That's what he does.
You act like,
I think it's really the tiers.
The titles. Can I tell you something? Without the titles, these are just a fancier, spit-shined power rankings. We would never.
USA Today.
Like the whole reason that the committee's tiers have taken hold of America the way they have is because of the titles. Every week, people are like, wow, how did you find a way to rank the teams horizontally by title and vertically by strength?
Hello.
So, yeah, I mean, thank you, KW.
Okay.
Go ahead, Wild.
I'm going to play by the rules, okay? I'm moving the Cardinals up to sneaky impressive, okay? Also, a little side note for you, Greg. I picked the Cardinals to go to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. I'm still riding with the Cardinals.
Oh,
I'm not bailing on them. I'm still riding with them. I'm like, with my Cardinals. Move my Cardinals up one to sneaky impressive for a few reasons. One, Kyler having his career year. You're like, are you sure the numbers aren't that great? Well, turns out they are for Kyler. He's running the ball now. He's fully healthy, feeling good. Touchdown interception ratio 11-3. Also, side note, I didn't sneak this one in here. Cardinals are in first place.
They are.
That's why I think they deserve more respect. Every other team that is in first place is up higher than the Cardinals. Poor Cardinals are down there like, well, they're not really in first place. Maybe the Rams are in first. They're not. Maybe the 49ers. They're not. The Cardinals are in first place. They deserve first place respect. Number 2, full offense. Pretty good. Just better than we thought. And we talk about great rushing teams. We're like, probably not the Cardinals. You probably run through a bunch of teams. Turns out the Cardinals are pretty good. And what about the defense? Real Achilles heel early on in the year. The last 3 games, all of a sudden, coming alive. There's wins against the Bears. Hey, it counts. Dolphins and the Chargers. So I think Cardinals are just sneaky good, about to beat the Jets. So that's going to be another win. It'll be 4 wins in a row for Kyler. Still in first place.
Yep.
Moving Kyler up.
So, Wildes,
Yeah.
You find the Cardinals to be sneaky impressive. So you think they should be on the sneaky impressive tier?
Yeah, it's very convenient. I wouldn't move on to the can win the Super Bowl tier. That was 2 years ago. I just move them to the sneaky impressive tier.
You know what, KW? I think you nailed it.
Thank you.
You're probably right. You know what? The committee is maybe a little too much election coverage last night, and we maybe should have really deep dove into the Cardinals a little bit more. Wildes and Greg, I thought you guys really made outstanding points today and presented those arguments brilliantly. Brew, it kind of fell apart at the end for you, buddy. I'm sorry.
It always does.
Can't have a team that's not facing elimination. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.